I am here with the man that has never once pulled out of a chat due to injury. He is John Ramdeen. And boy, UFC 199, too good to be true, as we say in this industry, Mr. Rammer. Chris Weidman is out. Michael Bisping is in. As you can tell from my voice, when I heard this news, made me absolutely sick to my stomach. Could not believe it.
Hey, number one, you can go online, you can read about Chris Weidman. He did not want to pull out of this fight. He spoke to his fans. He had neck issues. He said it happened after sparring on Friday. He woke up, he was in pain on Saturday.
Yeah, this is a nerve issue,
exactly.
which he is likely facing surgery, which it could be a removal of the disc or fusion surgery. So he's pegging it anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks if it's the removal of the disc, or 12 weeks with fusion. So not super long term, but this guy should not have been fighting on June the 4th.
Yeah, but it just tells you what type of individual you're dealing with in Chris Weidman, a guy very, very motivated to get what he believes is his 185-pound championship back. And he said for his fans, though, he's going to deal with this because all of his family and friends, they suggested that he should go get whatever issue with his neck dealt with and then move on. He says, based on everybody he's talked to, he will be ready to perform in November when the UFC goes to...
Which could be an ideal timeline.
Exactly.
I mean, if all of this works out, regardless of who wins this new fight on June the 4th...
We know who's going to win this new fight. I mean, there's, as much as we all... There's a number of facts. Fact one...
We've seen the fight.
Sure, we've seen the fight, but... We're all fans here of Michael Bisping. We love his fighting style. You know, in the back, it's like, oh, Michael Bisping deserves the title shot because of everything he's done. He's coming off of this win over Anderson Silva. A lot of people don't think he won that fight with Anderson Silva. And as you pointed out, we saw what happened the first time when Luke Rockhold faced Michael Bisping. Bisping had issues dealing with Luke Rockhold in round one. Rockhold gave him no respect and then turned up the heat and took him out in the early goings of round two. And a couple other facts. We know Michael Bisping has spent the last 6 weeks in Toronto, and word is he hasn't been training. He's been focused on shooting this movie that he's been a part of, which means 2 weeks to get ready for Luke Rockhold, who was getting ready for a reinvigorated, remotivated Chris Weidman. And Luke Rockhold has the luxury of training with the light heavyweight champion, who's getting ready to fight John Jones, and the former heavyweight champion, who's getting ready to fight Travis Brown.
Well, you're throwing out the X factor, maybe the triple X factor, and that is Vin Diesel, that he has also been hanging out with during this time in Toronto, John. So do not understate that fact. But Michael Bisping, was this the best option of those available? We know what Dana White stated on ESPN was that Jacare is dealing with a meniscus injury after just fighting this past weekend. And beyond that,
Romero's suspended.
Yoel Romero is not available at that time to fight on such a short turnaround with the suspension. Then you get into the Gegard Mousasi's and Robert Whittaker's of the world.
I do.
However, this is also a pay-per-view main event slot, and there's no question Michael Bisping is the most appealing from a name value standpoint.
But that's it. Everybody's looking at the name value, not whether he's in fight shape, not whether or not we're going to get the best version or today's best version of Michael Bisping. It's, he just deserves this title shot. It doesn't matter if this guy's been eating cheeseburgers for the last 8 weeks. Just put him in there. It doesn't matter if he gets smoked or not. Or Gegard Mousasi, this is a guy that has been preparing for a fight. So I think from a martial arts standpoint, from a peaking standpoint, I think it would have been a better option to go with Gegard Mousasi. But hey, Bisping knows how to sell a fight. He's going to do whatever he can in these 2 weeks to get ready. But do you honestly believe it's going to be enough for him to become the UFC middleweight champion, considering who he's facing?
I think Chris Weidman benefits a lot from this because I think regardless, he will get the winner of this, and it very well could headline or at least be one of the featured bouts in New York City. I mean, Chris Weidman, you look at this, why go into a fight whatever he is, 40, 50%, you're facing the possibility of 2 losses to the reigning champion, and you've iced yourself out of that title contention at 185 pounds.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the conversation we've been having is, I'm not, as much as we all need to know who the number one guy is, I just think right now at 185 pounds, the top of that division, I want to see Chris Weidman face Yoel Romero. I want to see him fight Jacare. I want to see Rockhold fight Yoel Romero. I just want to see and I think that's what the fight fans want to see. They want to see new, fresh, interesting matchups to see who really is at the top of that.
So
100.
John Ramdine giving the 199 main event a thumbs down.
No. Again, we love Luke Rockhold. Very, very talented individual. And again, this is a huge challenge for Michael Bisping because, the odds are stacked against him. So he has to try to figure out a way, and that's kind of what it's been about martial arts, especially if you look back in these tournament fights. You don't have a whole lot of time to get ready for your next opponent. Maybe Bisping can approach it that way.
UFC 201, the main event is official, July 30th. We've discussed it already. Robbie Lawler and Tyron Woodley for the welterweight championship fight. In this division, there were certainly some options you had at 170 pounds, but it felt like of what was available to you, Tyron Woodley, this is a guy, if there's one issue, it's just the length of inactivity from his last fight until now.
Yeah, we know. I think most people that have seen Tyron Woodley fight, they know what they're getting. They're getting a racehorse who is motivated, who constantly improves, and you could see how he would present a number of challenges for Robbie Lawler. Plus, the UFC has promised him his title shot. I think maybe they should have looked at the winner of Rory and Stephen Thompson, if it was Stephen Thompson, because we've seen the Robbie Lawler, Rory McDonald fight a couple of times, but there's too many what-ifs. I do like this fight from a martial arts standpoint, from a fighting standpoint, but neither one of these guys do a great job of talking things up, and we see Tyron Woodley kind of use his mouth in this fight.
Well, a guy that maybe is not exactly known for his mouth is our new UFC heavyweight champion, and that is Stipe Miocic, and I believe we do have some footage here. I mean, since his title win, this guy has been just embraced by the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah.
He was at the Cleveland Cavaliers game, and I think in a weird way, John, we have somebody here that is just such an unassuming ambassador here for the UFC. I mean, this guy's, to me, the epitome of your blue-collar champion. And I think that what you have here is someone that very relatable to a lot of people. I'm not saying this guy's going to be a massive superstar on pay-per-view, but I think you have a very unique personality in Stipe Miocic. Here's a guy that is your heavyweight champion while he is still a firefighter. I mean, it's quite an interesting story with this guy.
Yeah, I have to agree. And again, as you pointed out, he kind of relates to the every man or woman out there. He's very unassuming, although he's a massive dude. He's a sports fan, comes from that back. I'm not surprised that he was able to hit the ball there because that's his background. He played baseball, so I think a lot of people can relate to Stipe Miocic. And I think if you're going to use this guy well, why not use him in New York? Why not have Alistair Overeem and Stipe Miocic fight for the UFC heavyweight championship? I mean, I know Cleveland's not that close to New York, but it's not really that far. And I think a lot of people would make that move to go see Stipe fight in New York City. So I think the UFC has a great problem on their hand, but the problem is the best way to cash in on a guy like Stipe Miocic, you need him to go on a run. You need him to hold that championship for a long time to prove that there's a legitimate, athletic heavyweight champion. But again, you have to go on a run, and it's going to be difficult at the heavyweight limit.
Final topic. Joe Rogan made a surprise appearance on the MMA Hour on Monday, stating, or confirming at least, his contract is up in August with the UFC, and he has not decided if he is going to stay or not. He did say if the UFC ends up being sold,
he's out.
He's gone. Do you anticipate Joe Rogan still being here when the UFC rolls into Madison Square Garden? Or is it done for him?
It seems like he, as much as he loves the fights, he's a martial artist, that he wants to be a part of this. He has so many other things going on in his life, his stand-up routine, his podcast, and everything else. I actually would be surprised to see him in New York.
All right, some interesting life choices for one Joe Rogan. We will be back with our next preview show coming up Thursday night, May the 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, previewing the UFC's Fight Night card from Las Vegas, Nevada. It is headlined by Thomas Almeida and Cody Garbrandt.